Social networking sites have changed the way we talk to one another. But what happens when you're the one being talked about and you don't like what's being said?
There's been many times where I've cried myself to sleep. I'm very scared, and I've never ever said that because I like to think that people think I'm strong.
Tonight on Panorama, hunting the internet bullies. Who they target.
You guys have ruined my life.
Why they do it.
Loads of people are doing it. It's purely to get some kind of reaction to people.
And what happens when we confront them.
Facebook is an open forum. Facebook is an open forum. You're entitled to your own opinion.
Darren, some of it is racist.
People don't like it, fair enough.
People have been convicted. People have been convicted for doing less than you've done. In 2010, Cher Lloyd went from being anonymous teenager to pop star. She reached the final four of the X Factor. It was a dream come true. After her very first appearance on the show, Cher noticed something remarkable happening on her Facebook profile.
Within minutes, my Facebook page exceeded the amount of friends you could have. It was excitement for me. I just kept clicking confirm, confirm, because I couldn't believe how many people wanted to be my friend.
Since the X Factor, she sold over 400,000 singles. But there was a price to pay. Nasty, sometimes racist comments posted about her online. Cher's mother is of Roma origin. That was used to attack her, and it continues to this day.
I must get at least 10 tweets a day saying that I'm a dirty pikey. Yeah, I must get that.
Why did they say that?
I think because they know it's going to get to me, or because they know they can.
There has even been a death threat to a member of her family.
There's been many times where I've cried myself to sleep. I'm very scared, and I've never ever said that because I like to think that people think I'm strong, because if they don't, then they might not think I can do it. But I am in some ways, but I think some days I just wish that people would leave me alone for a little bit. Wish for there to be a hole in it to suck me in.
You've been really affected by this, haven't you?
I never thought that I could talk to anyone about it because I didn't feel like I needed to. I thought that I'd be strong enough to get through it on my own. I think that's the worst thing you could possibly do.
In the last 5 years, social networks have become a fact of life. Facebook now has 30 million users in the UK. That's almost half the population of the country. But for some, the runaway success of social networking has come at a cost. Natasha McBride was 15 when last year she was bullied not on Facebook but on a smaller social networking site.
Tash came home from school one day, floods of tears, and saying that she never wanted to go back to the school again. It was quite serious. It wasn't just a fallout with friends that she'd had, and I believe that her mother did look into possibly transferring schools, etc. So it sort of shows the seriousness of the nature.
What began as a disagreement in school soon went online. Panorama understands that at the height of the problem, there were 30 pages of critical comments about Natasha on one social network. Her father believes it contributed to what happened next.
It was a perfectly normal evening. There'd been discussions at tea, there'd been a little bit of a fallout with one of her friends, and then at 9:30 at night, she just walked out. So something had happened that she just decided enough's enough, and yeah, she walked out the house.
Early the next morning, Shani Irwin, an officer with the British Transport Police, was called to the scene of an incident on the railway line.
At about 2:30 in the morning on February the 14th, a train driver discovered the body of a young female on the railway lines just further down here.
So it was just up here, yeah?
Yes, just on the bridge here in front of us.
The first thing I knew about it was at about 6:30 in the morning, and suddenly I get a phone call from my son James. There'd been an incident on the railway and that the lines were closed and that we needed to go down to the local bridge.
Natasha had committed suicide by throwing herself in front of a train. Earlier that evening, she had read nasty comments about herself online. Cases like this are still very rare, but cyberbullying is becoming more and more common. Earlier today, the charity Beat Bullying released a major report which says that 28% of 11 to 16-year-olds have experienced bullying or harassment online.
Our research shows that cyberbullying, online bullying, is relatively common. A large number of children receive abusive, vicious messages, have comments posted about them online, have hate pages set up about them online, and for some, this happens relentlessly over a period of months and months.
Social networking means that bullying has become more intrusive. Where once it might have ended at the school gate, now it can happen around the clock. And when it comes to social networks, one site is now the daddy of them all.
Which social network site is the big one? Where does it all happen?
Facebook.
For the vast majority of teenagers, Facebook is now just a part of life. But this isn't just any group of teenagers. They all work in their spare time for the charity Beat Bullying. They're what's known as cyber mentors. They give advice to other young people who are being bullied online.
What kind of things do you experience or have you seen on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, I've seen many people get told that they're not allowed to come to school. No one loves you, your mum don't love you, you look like you've got a disease, so many horrible things.
Our cyber mentors said they'd like to take some of the issues they have up with Facebook, but they didn't know who to call. So we recorded some of their questions and asked Facebook if they would answer them. Their Director of Policy, Richard Allen, agreed.
I've tried to report a cyberbully to Facebook in the past and found out that this was very hard to do. I know that all my friends have struggled with it as well. We feel that the report button does not work. What are you going to do about it?
Is actually someone you can speak to at Facebook if an incident of bullying happens.
What's coming across here from these young people is they just want to know what happens when you press that report button. Where does it go?
Yeah. So the report goes into a system where it's categorised according to the seriousness of the offence. We've actually tried to improve the reporting tool to make it as accurate as possible in terms of categorising reports.
So are you saying it's just too difficult? You know, Facebook just isn't up to the job of answering phone calls, because you're a multi-billion-dollar company that's growing exponentially every year?
Companies that operate on the scale that we do across the internet, I think it's incumbent on us to make sure that we have systems in place that allow us to keep our sites safe and secure. And the only way I think we can do that realistically and maintain services that are free to the user, which is their expectation, is to put in place a large number of automated systems backed up by trained staff who can look at the most serious cases, which is precisely what we do.
To some of the experts in this area, that's not enough.
All of us need to demand more from social networking sites and hold them to account to make sure that A, their sites are as safe as they can possibly be, and B, that they actually work more and support organisations that deal with the consequences of what happens on their sites.
Facebook does at least try to promote a real name policy. It urges its users to post under their genuine identities. But on some smaller social networking sites, it seems the attraction lies in the fact that you can post comments anonymously. At Reigate College in Surrey, one such site created havoc in the school.
So that's the first point. Can we have a range of views? You will know from coming to the college we won't have any student here who has been made to feel uncomfortable or unwelcome because of someone else making their life difficult.
The website is called Little Gossip. You may not have heard of it, but they have.
Can you just put your hand up if you've ever been on Little Gossip? I don't mean commented, I just mean just looked at it. Pretty much everybody. And can you now just put your hand up if you've been named on it, if someone has commented about you? So quite a few. It works by allowing people to leave anonymous comments about anyone they like, which is bad enough, but it's all organised around schools and colleges, which makes it even easier for the people around you every day to see what's been written about you. No wonder this site has been called a recipe for cyberbullying. A quick look at the site for Reigate College reveals a list of horrendous comments about real named individuals, like this one, for example. When it comes to nasty design features, Little Gossip seems to be the site that has thought of everything. One feature means that your peers can vote on whether a piece of gossip about you is true or false.
What you're giving them, of course, is your email address.
Paul Rispoli has recently retired as head of Reigate.
I think if you go on there and you find there's a comment about you and it's a comment that says you're unpleasant, nobody wants you around, and 38 people have said true, and no one said false.
It makes it so much worse.
It makes it so much worse, and it will build up the opinion that you're not wanted in that particular community.
We wanted to find out more about Little Gossip. First was to find the person who invented it, and he agreed to talk to us. Ted Nash is now a 20-year-old app designer. Little Gossip was all his idea, but these days he has nothing to do with it. He originally set it up from his bedroom as a chat forum for his friends.
So what was the thinking behind it? I mean, how many people did you expect would be involved with it?
Well, there's no way I expected it to be as big as it was. It had 33,000 hits within the first hour.
Ted Nash did set up controls so that people could report abusive comments and bullying.
The trouble was, once the traffic took off, how can one man cope with 60,000 pieces of gossip which come in? It got to a stage where I just had to delete everything that was coming through because it was coming through too fast. And I took the domain offline, and all through those 4 days I was approached by a number of different people who said, you know, can we take the site off you?
Within days, Ted sold the site on. It was difficult to find any information about who owns Little Gossip now. Until very recently, it was hosted by a company called LeaseWeb, based here in the Netherlands. LeaseWeb says it recently stopped hosting the site and said it couldn't tell us who owned it. We did discover that it was recently registered with a Russian internet service by an anonymous person who gave a contact number in Belarus, a communist-style dictatorship in Eastern Europe.
This is the problem with regulating sites like Little Gossip. The site's users are in one country, it's hosted in another country, and it's run from yet another country, and the owners of the site don't have to tell anybody who they are or where they are. How on earth do you regulate that?
Anonymity is a big problem when it comes to cyberbullying. Getting offensive comments from people you know is one thing, getting them anonymously is another. This is Formspring. On this network, you can ask questions and others will answer them. They have the choice to do so with their real name or anonymously. Natasha McBride was bullied on Formspring.
It was being abused by a lot of people in that they were sending anonymous postings to Tash with some quite vindictive and very nasty things being said about her, which obviously undermined her confidence and made her naturally very upset.
Because the comments were all anonymous, Natasha didn't know who in the school she could trust and who she couldn't.
Because she didn't know who it was, and that it probably was one of her friends, she didn't know who to turn to. There was obviously a bad apple amongst her friends, but she didn't know which one.
Formspring is integrated with Facebook, so that it's easy for users to connect from one site to the other.
Why is it that Facebook, which has a real name policy, integrates and links with a site like Formspring, which revels in anonymity?
We are responsible for the content on our service. And if a third party starts abusing or breaking the terms and conditions for the use of Facebook, then we'll make sure that they're not able to access our service. But we're not responsible for what they do within their own environment.
But why link to them? Why integrate with them?
I mean, most of the internet operates in an anonymous way, and people on Facebook can link to most of the internet. So we can't have a consistent rule that says you can't link from Facebook to the anonymous internet.
We asked Formspring for an interview. They declined, instead giving us this statement. Our members' rules prohibit users from abusing, harassing, intimidating other users, and we take action against users who violate those terms, including terminating their accounts. For Natasha McBride's father, the crucial point is that anonymity on the internet can be dangerous.
I think the first thing is to remove the anonymity of people on social network sites, because a lot of the bullying is done because people can say it, because they think they will not be caught, and therefore that's why they say what they like.
And do you think anonymity played a big part in what happened to Natasha?
Absolutely.
Anonymity. For many people, it just gives them a chance to let off steam online. But for one internet subculture, being anonymous is a way of life. They are internet trolls. There's even a viral song about them. Trolls set out to provoke a reaction, often by upsetting and offending people as much as they can.
You guys are bitches. You know what? You don't faze me.
Jessica Leinhardt, an 11-year-old girl from Florida, became one of the most well-known trolling victims of recent years. Her story shows what can happen when you inflame the global community of internet trolls.
I'm more pretty than you. I have more friends.
It all started when Jessie went online to post a video of herself using her online name, Jessie Slaughter.
I'm happy with my life, okay? And if you can't, realize that and stop hating, then you know what? I'll pop a Glock in your mouth and make a brain slushy.
This video also went viral. Internet trolls thought that 11-year-old Jessie needed a comeuppance, so they went to work. Malcolm Blackman saw what happened up close. Today, he's part of the activist group Anonymous UK. But when the Jessie Slaughter campaign was at its height, he was in close contact with the people who were attacking her.
I spent quite a lot of time with several notorious world trolls. I spent some time in their company, obviously not in their personal company, but online. I gained a modicum of respect for them for what I do. And they, in turn, over the time I ran with their pack, gained my respect.
Stop hating on me.
So what happened to Jessie?
Well, Jessie became the target of pretty much a worldwide viral hate campaign. It wasn't just the trolls. I mean, it became a vehicle for anyone to jump on to really slaughter Jessie Slaughter.
And if you hate me, you know what?
The trolls got what they wanted. Jessie posted another video a few days later, this time in great distress. Remember, she's 11 years old.
Okay, this is taking fun. I just want to tell you guys that you ruined my life. My household has been torn.
Don't be saying suicide.
I'm not. I'm saying
Jesse's father intervened as well.
You guys have ruined my life.
I'm going to tell you right now. This is from her father. You bunch of lying, no good punks. And I know.
But this video didn't stop the campaign. It just made it worse. By now, trolls were invading every aspect of Jessie's life, hijacking her social networking sites, publishing her real address online, and even sending constant pizza deliveries to her house.
I am torn. I am having emotional breakdowns one after another.
I guess the point is that the internet community is merciless in a sense.
It is, yeah.
It doesn't take account of age or it's just there are people there who are going to...
Well, because they can, literally, they can get away with being... It's a great term, merciless. They can be thoroughly ruthless.
Malcolm says he's out to work against trolls, but he admits he associates with them regularly, and he can even see why they do what they do.
It's the thrill, it's the win, being able to claim a victory, being able to infuriate someone to the point where they log off or they disconnect their computer. To a troll, that is a win.
For many, the worst kind of trolling occurs on tribute sites to those who have died. It's surprisingly common. There's even a name for it, RIP trolling. Just hours after her death, Natasha McBride's family were coming to terms with the idea that cyberbullying may have played a part in her decision to commit suicide. But nothing could have prepared them for what happened next.
Pretty much immediately, actually, after Tasha died, a tribute site was set up on Facebook. I had a phone call from a friend saying, had I seen it, because there was a particularly nasty comments being put up.
What had been posted on Natasha's tribute website was a range of offensive and obscene remarks. Someone had even made an animated video of trains using a picture of Natasha.
How soon after her death were you reading this?
That was within about 24 hours.
So you're in the initial traumatic stages of grief?
I was still in a state of shock at the time when we were seeing this traumatic stuff being posted about your daughter, some disgusting and disgraceful, most people have seen it in the media, horrendous comments to actually see about your daughter.
Shani Irwin of the British Transport Police was investigating the death of Natasha when she was told about the Facebook posts.
I'd never heard of the term trolling before, so we worked with Facebook, with YouTube, and then later with the internet service providers, and inquiries, both those and others, led us to Sean Duffy.
Sean Duffy, a 25-year-old loner who suffers from Asperger's syndrome, was responsible for many of the posts. Panorama has obtained exclusive footage of his police interview.
It's got a picture here as of who we know as Natasha McBride. Yeah. Okay. And an account name called Tasha McTank Engine.
That's correct.
Okay. So Have you seen that page before?
I made that page.
You made that page?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Okay, what can you tell me? Can you describe that page, obviously, for the this running?
Yeah.
What you can see on there?
What I can see on there is the words. I think that was spelled near the front of it.
Yeah.
And the name of the profile without his friend.
In the interview, Duffy gives a reason for trolling.
Why would you put those wordings on that image there?
Like I said, the whole idea of trolling is to go around and say things to get a reaction.
Is that purely what it is?
That's purely what it is. It's loads of people are doing it. It's purely to get some kind of reaction to people without me and just have a go at you. That's what trolling is.
Okay. I'm just going to show you.
Duffy was charged under the Malicious Communications Act. It's a piece of legislation that predates the internet, but it's still one of the best tools the police have for prosecuting trolls. He was convicted and sentenced to 18 weeks in prison. He served 9 weeks. Most trolls are never caught. But we decided to try and track one down. We met a source who's familiar with the trolling community, and he gave us information about a notorious troll. The troll's screen name is Nimrod Severn.
On this pen drive is the evidence of what this troll, Nimrod Severn, has been up to. And really he's just popping up on loads of RIP tribute sites and leaving really offensive messages. But some of them are extremely racist and quite possibly illegal.
On Boxing Day last year, Lancaster University student Anuj Bidve was murdered here. A memorial page was posted up for him on Facebook, and within days Nimrod Severn posted an offensive comment. Rot in piss. But on the tribute site of US rapper Dolla, who was shot dead, he used one of the most racist terms possible. We wanted to meet the person behind Nimrod Severn, and it turns out we were able to put a face to a name. His real name is Darren Burton. It was time to pay him a visit.
We have managed to track down Darren Burton. We've got an address for him. He lives here in Cardiff, and we're going to go and try to find him today and ask him the big question, which is why? How can he possibly justify what he does? Darren, hi, Declan Long, BBC Panorama. Can I ask you about the internet trolling that you do?
What do I suggest?
Go away. But you are Nimrod Severn. Can I ask you about it? I mean, can I ask how you justify it? Why you do it? What I want to ask you, Darren, is have you ever thought about the people that you're hurting? Have you ever considered that? Have you ever considered it? Do you think about the effect it has on them? That's my question.
Yeah.
And
what do I think?
Yeah, what do you think?
That's what I think.
Darren, how do you justify it? The trolling. The trolling, how do you justify it?
Huh?
How do you justify the trolling? It's extremely offensive and hurtful to people.
Is it breaking the law?
Well, some of it's racist, so some of it is clearly incitement to racial hatred.
You're entitled to your own opinion, yeah? Facebook is an open forum. Facebook is an open forum. You're entitled to your own opinion.
Darren, some of it is
racist. People don't
racist.
like it, then fair enough.
People have been convicted. People have been convicted for doing less than you've done.
Like what? 9 weeks.
People have been
9 weeks in jail.
People have been convicted.
9 weeks.
Yeah.
How you say 9 weeks? What's that?
So there you go, an internet troll. That's what they look like. The big question here is that the law seems to be unevenly applied. Sean Duffy wrote on Natasha McBride's RIP tribute site and was convicted for it. And Darren here does pretty much the same thing and isn't.
Darren Burton told us before we went to see him that South Wales Police had already visited him about his trolling, but said that they never took it any further. So we asked South Wales Police about it. They acknowledged they had visited Darren Burton back in November 2010 to give him what they called suitable advice about his future activities on the internet, and that at that time there was no evidence that a crime had been committed. But clearly it didn't stop Darren Burton.
There's a variation in how the law is enforced in different cases, and the level of knowledge between police officers and between police forces in terms of how to deal with cyberbullying varies greatly.
There's just no joined up approach to dealing with it, is there?
There's no joined up approach. Perhaps what they need is some training. and some understanding and some confidence of how to deal with cyberbullying, what actual protection the law or the different laws that are involved in this affords to the victim, and what as a police officer you can do.
Cher Lloyd told us she feels there's no point complaining to the police about the people who are making her life a misery, and that there's not much she can do about it.
Let's say you had become well known 10 years ago, before social networks. Do you think you'd be happier about what you're doing?
Yeah. I think that I think I would be a lot happier. I'd be protected a lot more. A few comments to a young girl, that's all it takes.
When it comes to the social network revolution, all of us are trying to keep up with a changing world. Most of us have no problems online, but some do. And when they do, they're not always getting the protection they need. Next week on Panorama, with 1.5 million American children now homeless, reporter Hilary Anderson meets school pupils who go hungry in the richest country on earth.
If you're concerned by internet safety, log on to the BBC's Share Take Care website, or there's recorded information from the BBC Action Line on 08000 566 065. Lines are open 24 hours a day, calls are free from a landline, mobile operators will charge.